Hey, it's Kellen, and today on Diversified Game, you're in for a treat. I found a motorcycle racer. Samantha is going to tell us how she got into motorcycle racing. You'll see her Instagram handle right there, and she is going fast, people. No holds barred. This isn't clickbait. She's really the one riding the motorcycle. Samantha, welcome to Diversified Game.
Hi, I thank you for inviting me. So how's it going?
All is well, but really for you, how is it going? Because you are doing things that scare most people. My first question is, how fast have you gone? What's the fastest you've gone on that motorcycle?
That's a pretty common question. And usually on the track, it depends really what track you're going on. But when I used to street race, don't tell anybody. My top speed was probably around like 180, 176, around that. So, but that's on a straightaway. On a track, typically would top out or maybe around 155. So, because you have to like downshift really quick. You don't want to go too fast.
How did you get into racing, and how long have you been doing it?
That's a good question. I actually started racing 2015. So, and I was scouted. I was hanging out like at bike night in, Detroit area, just hanging out, having a coffee. And a guy came up to me and he's like, "Hey, have you ever, tried track racing or track days?" And I'm like, I didn't even know that existed. This is how small-minded I was when it came to, a performance. And I said, "No, I've never tried it. What's up with that?" And he was actually an instructor. So my first track day, I drove out 2.5 hours on the west side of Michigan, and it was just like so intimidating, all guys. I was the only girl, and I'm like, okay, hi, here I am. And I tried it, and it was like a drug. I did not stop. That was my first time, and it's not going to be the last. And that was probably around summer of 2015. So
what made him ask you? Were you on a bike already?
Yeah, I was. And I gained quite a reputation through street racing. So like if I were to pull up, for example, and other people are there, bikers, and they're like, "Oh, hey, that chick, can ride." And she's like racing, street racing other dudes and, on big leader bikes. And she's kind of like passing them on corners. So they want to know a little bit more about me. And I'm just like having fun. I didn't care. So that's why he came up to me. He's like, okay, she obviously has that passion, something in her that could be a potential for something greater. And I still appreciate him to this day. We share garages at the track, still. So his name's Ryan Kramer. He's a great guy.
And yeah, how did you get into street racing?
People asking me, they challenge me and they're like, "Hey, like you want to go, race from," for example, there's Royal Oak, which is like, I would say 16 miles from Detroit, like the inner city of Detroit. And they say like, okay, let's start from Royal Oak and, hit the highways, go all the way down to Detroit. Whoever makes it there first pays for drinks or pays for dinner, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'll have a free pizza. So, and I did that. And I just ended up winning quite a few races, and I kind of got excited by that. And that's kind of how it all started, just by people asking me like, "Hey, let's drag race or hit up different areas."
Now I'm gonna even push further, because starting with street racing, I'm sure people see you all day and they say, "Hey, she could be a lawyer, she could be a this, she could be a that." They wouldn't probably see you as a racer. So At what age did you get on your first motorcycle, and what kind of motorcycle was it?
Oh, okay. So nobody in my family likes motorcycles. So my mom can't stand it, my dad can't stand it, and I just always had a desire to ride. Like my dad, he was friends with biker dudes. So, and he always owned like show cars, like old Corvettes, classic cars. And I would go and hang out and just like always admired the biker dudes. Like I thought they were so cool, free spirited. And there's just something about them that I kind of like, I aspired to be like. So as I got older, I still had that itch. I'm like, I want to get on a bike, and at the age of 18, I I got accepted for a credit card. I'm like, wow, Yamaha, you know, and I'm like, that's a deal. I don't even know. No, actually it was 29% interest. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. I bought my first bike. It was a 250 Yamaha, and I had it delivered. I had no idea how to ride yet. I actually had the bike delivered to me because I didn't even know how to turn the thing on. So I taught myself how to ride. I practiced in, you know, the parking lot, went down a couple times, and I got back up and got right back on that thing and just kept going. And that's kind of where it all started, really, at the age of 18, 19, and just ignited from there.
Now, you know, having your bike fall for the first time, what was that feeling? Because here you have this shiny, you know, beautiful
Yeah.
thing and it falls. I mean, what's going through your head?
Um, there's a few different emotions because I crashed quite a few times. My first crash, though, I got up. Adrenaline was kicking. You know, I worried more so about my bike. I'm like, no, and I had, you know, I had gear on, like my jacket, gloves, helmet, what, you know, you can name it. You know, I still had bruises, like bruises this big. It was just pretty terrible, but I was just so worried about my bike. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I picked it up right away, checking everything. And people are like, are you okay? Because you just flew like high-sided off the bike because of gravel. And it's just, you know, it was pretty intense. I was so eager to learn. And a lot of people do that. You know, they want to like learn something so quick and they don't follow the certain, you know, steps. So I went from step 1 to step 5. And that's where I kind of, you know, I had to lay down for a little bit off the bike. So yeah, it didn't feel too good, I would say, but I love it. I crash, I get up, and it's a learning experience for me each time.
Now, do you do any street racing now? And I'm asking that because, you know, you're on the track, everything is legit, but is there like a thrill to go back ever to the street racing? Are you?
You know, to be honest with you, I don't have that desire. Due to the fact that the road conditions, for one, are quite terrible. So like as I get older, I'm more rational. At night, usually people do the racing and I can't really see well at night. There's potholes and I've seen it all on a freeway. I mean, a ladder in the middle of the freeway. So I don't want to, you know, hit that and just like, you know, you never know what could happen. The possibilities are endless versus a track, which is monitored. They have, you know, EMS right on site, and there's an instructor there telling you, and you know, they want you to improve as a rider and improve your skills. So that became very addicting to me, and I just don't have. Once I started track sessions, I just never looked back and never had that desire to street race anymore. So,
Okay.
and I don't want speeding tickets. That's
Okay.
not fun.
So there's no, you know, in your other life, you're like the Fast and the Furious still, you know.
Right.
On
The fantasy. It was fun. You know, I mean, hanging out, like there was an abandoned airport. So if you want to talk about like the Fast and Furious thing, it was just like that. Like there was the cliques and all the different type of cars and bikes you can think of, and everyone would just meet up and just do their quick drag races. And here comes all the cops. Everyone spreads, you know, in different directions, and you kind of like have to run away from them. But that was the heyday, and you know, the rebellion part of me that I'll have to just keep there and not go back because it's, you know, not the smartest decisions I've made in my life, but I got lucky, you
And see,
know?
I'm from the Bay Area, and so for
Yeah.
us, they have these things called Sideshows, and it's just basically where people do the donuts, and many people
Right.
can come out. And back in the day, I'm talking way back in the day, I
Yeah.
mean, that was, you know, when it was fun. At this age, I couldn't see myself out there with a bunch of kids and the rowdiness and having to deal and run with the police. So I definitely get that. But there was no money really at the sideshows as far as, you know, who could do the best, this and that. Racing
Right.
is different. Was there money in the street race, or was it more for the passion?
So as far as betting goes, with street races, there was money for sure. Like, some guys had a reputation, like, for example, I forget his nickname, but he was from Detroit and he had a Corvette, twin turbo supercharged. This guy had like 800 horsepower in a rear wheel, and he would just, come by, show up out of nowhere and say, "Hey, I have $5,000. Who wants to race me?" And that's where the, adrenaline, that's where like the excitement comes in. So obviously I didn't, I'm like, I don't have the money. I was 18 years old and I'm still like on my little 250. So I was the spectator at that point, but it was amazing watching how much money goes into it as far as street races go, unofficially. And professional racing, you get sponsorships, advertising, and you get the track days and the training paid for. And it's just great to have like almost like an Olympic. You earn a medal, and it's like something that you talk about and you're excited about. So it's more so a sport for me.
And we
You know what I
know,
mean?
yeah, racing is expensive. I've had friends who do, the
Yeah.
cars in different levels, and racing is expensive. And there's also, just like the music industry, kind of an underworld, there's some
Yeah.
goons and goblins in it. How do you navigate even, being able to stay in it when certain folks have money, I call it Afghan money because it's coming from all over, it's,
Yeah.
and so how does, if someone says, I want to get into racing, but it's just way too expensive, are there any, organizations, grants besides, your typical sponsors that aren't always the easiest to get for everybody?
They used to have, they don't do any anymore, and I don't know why. There's a company called STT, Sport Bike Track Time, and if it was your first track day, it would be for free. So I don't know if people abused it or whatnot, but they stopped doing that. And that was back in like 2015, 16. But now, unfortunately, you have to pay for every track day, and it is expensive. Like, I spent maybe $800 so far, and I've only done maybe like 4 track days. So, and you have to spend on tires and, equipment. But they do have, like, if you were to go, you still have to pay for your track day, but you can do tracksuit rentals. And, there's what is it called? An event from Ducati Detroit. They actually have it to where you can rent one of their bikes and take it to the track. But if you've never been to the track, there's like a liability thing, and you don't want to drop a $25,000 motorcycle. So it's just one of those things. It's tough to navigate through if you're on a budget, But you can buy a cheap
Yeah.
track bike. I mean, the one I have, I got it for $3,000, and it rides great, honestly. I mean, and if you crash it, you won't cry about it, and you won't take a big hit off of, the budget. So.
I'm an adrenaline junkie. I've ridden bulls. I've raced a Lamborghini. I like things like that,
Right.
and all those things. I mean, I was shocked how much bull riding, how expensive it is if you really get into it. I mean, the rope alone used is $200, and you're like, whoa, this is costly. Plus,
Yeah.
I won't wear a helmet because I'm a real cowboy. And so, if anything is to happen, that can be really expensive. Thank God nothing had happened. But, riding this motorcycle, going so fast, I'm sure you've heard all the stories. My friends who ride motorcycles saying getting hit is part of it, and then they get back on their bike. To me, I'm like, you guys are the real daredevils because, how do you deal with the psychology of that? And have you ever been hit while just, casually going on your motorcycle or in a race?
You know what? Luckily, I've never been hit by a car. I've had close calls and kind of, I hate to compare it to this, but it's almost like a video game. So you have to, and you only have one life. And you have to look at everything. You have to look at every driver, every person that's out there, and kind of predict their next move. So, and every time I just remember like me going on the freeway, and I'm going maybe 80 miles an hour, and there's someone next to me. I'm like, that person's going to turn and cut me off. And boom, sure enough, they cut me off. And you have to be very aware of your surroundings. And that's probably what kept me from getting hit. But sometimes it's out of your control. You never know when it could happen. And that's part of the reason why I kind of got off the streets, because it's just, there's a lot of mystery and the unknown that I'd rather not, take that big risk. And I've heard, I know many people that are no longer here with us today because of those reasons, that people just don't look out for bikers on the road. And it's unfortunate, but yeah.
So we need the Tesla bike to try to help with some of those, incidents.
Where, right. Yeah. Yeah. We do need that. Thank God they're coming up with that now.
Yeah. So, and so do you even ride at all on the street anymore, or do you just save it all for the track?
Oh, you know what? I purposely got old 1970 Honda CB350, which that thing maybe tops out at like 65 miles an hour, 70. So that's like my city bike where I go to the coffee house, chill, and, hang out for a little bit. So it kind of tames me. I gotta have a little governor on my bike to keep me from doing bad things. So, because I still have that itch. I'm like, damn it, this thing only goes like 70 miles an hour. I catch myself sometimes.
Okay. So, yeah. It's like buying a diesel, old diesel. You can only go so fast.
Right.
So, no, that's awesome. So I know you have a plan to go, pro. And yes. Tell us how that has, did you have to do so many races? Did you have to write so many sponsors? Like, what is the process of going pro?
Great question. So next year, this is my plan. You go to racing school. They have a thing called pro school. You get your license, and then that's where those companies are hanging out. They're kind of like, what do they call that? Scouting you. So they're looking out for people that kind of have a unique way with them, or they are great, at performing. They have a good track time, and they say, hey, I want to sponsor you, and they put their label on your bike or your tracksuit, and that helps, pay for a lot of the expenses, which the tires you burn through, that's like $400 a pop, and you name it. And it's a lot of time too. So I have to drive like 3 hours at a time for each weekend of a session. So, but yeah, that's typically the process. You have to get your license, and then you can compete, wherever you want. And depending on what type of bike you have, there's 600 class and 1000 cc class, and even 250 and 300 cc classes. So
now, how long is racing school?
Well, honestly, it's a 1 day.
Oh.
So the instructors, they follow you, and you do mock races, and they have classes. So after each session, you go to a class, and they really hone in your riding capabilities. So they make sure that you're, a great athlete. So, and it is a physical sport, I have to tell you. It's draining in the best ways.
Well, and talk about that, because folks are like, wait, you're just on a bike. I mean, can't I be, 300 pounds and be on the bike and, just.
Nope. Nope. It is, oh my gosh. Like, even for me, and I'd like to say I'm pretty physically fit. Like, I run, I lift weights, and I know like this year kind of like screwed everything up. They closed the gyms, but I ran outside. I still was pretty active. And once I started my track days, it exhausted me so much. Even pro school, like I actually got sick from overexhaustion. So it took everything out of me. Like how in personal training, they push you until you like almost throw up or you get sick. That's like a good, training session. That's exactly how I felt. And they call it the track day hangover, which the next day you were just out for the count. Your whole body's sore. You need like a gallon of water, and you're just super exhausted. And it's a very physical sport. I mean, mind you, like you're approaching a corner, your whole body has to, measure a turn, and you have to lean going maybe 70 miles an hour. And that's like in a half a second, you have to make that decision. And it's a very physical experience and exhilarating too.
Now, Now, this next question, I'm going all the way around here because I want to hit some points.
Oh yeah.
But, you'll hear in sports people say Michael Jordan wasn't the best basketball player. LeBron wasn't the best. They just had, the opportunity. I'm sure you've heard with your racing, she's going to be the Danica Patrick of motorcycles, and
Yeah.
somebody will pick you up just off your look because you can race or you could model, you could do this, you could do that. And then it kind of takes away from your skill to say, okay, I look like this.
Right.
And so you're thinking that I'm going to get a deal or, these opportunities have come because I look like this, not because I'm just the best and I could smoke you in a race like that.
Right.
How do you deal with that when people say that? Because I'm sure you've heard that before.
Oh, I've gotten that so many times, and I literally don't say anything. I'm like, okay, and I just wait for the actions to speak, because I still get that at the track. I still get that in the comments in my Instagram where like, oh, you look pretty cute next to your bike, but like, what can you do on it? And I'm like, okay. So I felt like I needed to prove something, and that's where even my track, shots that you see on Instagram, the pictures, like still people, critique it, and they judge it based off of just a photo, and they don't know what they see in real life. And it's baffling to me, really, due to they see more of a gender than the person, and I'm sure you understand, like when people like judge you just based off of your image or your gender, it's discouraging for me in the beginning. Like mind you, my first track session, it was all guys, and I walked in and they were looking at me like, oh, look at this little girl, and I'm 5'5", I'm a little thing, and it took me a little bit to like get acclimated and gain that confidence, like, hey, I can do that, I can do what the guys can do. And and I had the right people in my life to encourage me to keep going and never give up. And you got to tell yourself that too. So, and in time, like you reach your goal. If you have that goal, that like light at the end of the tunnel, like don't give up, because it'll be there soon enough.
And with that, I mean, if you were trash and no good, you wouldn't be on the track long. The same way if Michael Jordan was trash, he would not have, been in the NBA long. And the same thing with LeBron and Danica Patrick, because I mean, I've heard all the stories. Oh, where she gets her money and what. And it's like, well, I mean, I see her beating guys though. I mean, and so what's your point? Because you're not saying that to the male who she smoked, but
right. Yeah, it's like, hello, come on, man. It takes time, and you got to look at the performance. If it shows, there's no argument. But people always like to talk and kind of rattle your cage and get you going. But you have to, you know what, your skeptics and the haters are kind of like your majority of following. Those people that really give you that kind of fire underneath you to keep you going. It's a motivation, at least for me. And it likes, for me, like I love to prove people wrong, and that's just like the best thing. So
no, it definitely it motivates me and other entrepreneurs, from clients to just friends. I know that the hate sometimes will have you be like, oh, okay, you don't think I can do it. But also, I tell people, if you read the comments and you like them on the good, when they're bad, you could be depressed by them. So don't read the comments. Don't worry what people are saying. Just beat them at, whatever you are doing. But with what you're doing, I always tell people, I think entrepreneurs see the end goal, even if it's just the dream. If you were to share it with people, you can see it before it happens. So where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself getting the big endorsements, the $1 million endorsements, doing the races from here to France to Australia? Or is it just something where you say, I just gonna do this, and I just kind of want to stay local because the fame might make me go crazy? Like, where are you in your journey?
For me, I take it like this, like I've mentioned before, tomorrow is uncertain, and I am very passionate with what I do in my life, and, wherever it takes me, I'm all in, and you just have to listen to your intuition. So if it does take me somewhere that I never thought I would go, I mean, I would be very thankful. But even if I don't get really famous into racing, I'm not in it for the fame anyways, I'm in it for the experience and just that inner accomplishment that tells me that I've done this. And when I get older, I can like sit back and say like, I did this. And I have no regrets. I never, stood back in fear and hesitated and just, turned my cheek. I went for it. And, that's the greatest thing is just, you don't think, you just do it. You can't have fear. So.
Now, racing is one aspect, but I'm sure you can do things on a bike that Hollywood, they look for people like you. Has, any of the acting or doing any stunts, has that ever, come across your table or interest you at all?
You know what? On and off. A friend of mine, actually, she used to do stunt riding, but unfortunately she passed away. She was in Deadpool. So I don't know if you heard about her. It was Deadpool 2, and she ended up having an incident while she was rehearsing through the stunts. So she was a sport bike rider. And that really took me back. And I think that stunt riders don't get enough credit. And that kind of discourages me. And to me, it's not worth it. It's a dangerous job to be a stunt performer, I believe.
Wow, yeah. I did not see it going that way.
Oh, it's like doom and gloom, but that's what changed my mind about it, really. And I'm just like, I'll just stick with my track days and, not worry about that, So.
Yeah, anything with a thrill, there's times where people can say, wow, I don't know if this is for me. For me, like I had mentioned riding a bull, that thing was fun. Until I saw the, person before me run up and the bull just defecated all on his arm. And here I'm thinking, we're in the middle of West Texas. I got to jump in the car with that. If that was me. So I said, I'm not going to let this bull step on me, horn me, or defecate on me. I'm going to do all that.
That one. I'd be taking a shower for a couple days like that. Not a good smell, Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
Yeah.
How did you get into that? Like bull riding?
So my wife and I got married in Massachusetts. Then she wanted to go to med school, but in Massachusetts, we went to the PGA, and again, she's from West Africa. She had never like bull riding, but she's one of those, when we had met almost 20 years ago, she's like, I want to have a Harley. And I'm like, oh, you get a Harley, I'm going to get a sports bike because I want to get busy. My parents would never let me have a bike. My friends, they had ramps in their backyard growing up. And I'd be like, hey, we got a big backyard. And they're like, my pops is like, nah, it'll never happen. And I'm like, what? And he's like, no, it won't happen. Like, it's not. And so the PGA, or the PBA, excuse me, not PGA, that's golf. The PBA, that's dyslexia right there sometimes, folks. We saw it, and I was like, that's awesome. And she's all, you see your woman like, yeah, I'm like, I could do that. And I just love a thrill, like things with a thrill. If I told you everything, it'd be like, oh no, exit, this is over. But I do things that are risky because in my brain, the chemicals in the brain, it inspires things. So once we moved to West Texas, that bull ride was $20 and you didn't even have to sign a waiver. And so the rodeo was like, you want to get busy. I already had my hat. I had to prove my hat. Like, you can't be a cowboy and never be on a bull. We grew up riding horses time to time, but I wanted the bull. And I've never rode like a wild horse. All the bull riders say those things will kill you because they're vicious. So, but no, I liked it, but it was expensive. And my wife said something besides the defecation. My wife said something like, your insurance plan is pretty high. So do what you got to do. And that kind of be like, hold on, trying to get rid of me?
Yeah, right.
So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I like thrills. If you ever create like a platform like a YouTube or anything, and then I'm asking this question while I'm telling you this story, and you say, you know what? I want to travel with my audience. I do things like that for my clients, and I've taken them overseas where they see the 5-star hotels, and then in the casinos, and we go film and do all that crazy stuff, and then I say, let's go to the worst slum in this country. And so you can get a whole feel of this country, because I don't think you should go and just see the creme de la creme without seeing how life is for other people who don't, $5 is a lot of money for them. So,
yeah. I mean, and on Instagram, people love to glamorize everything. So it's good to see both sides and the realities of life, because life has two sides of everything,
I'm a Gemini, so I get it. I don't live in a box. For many moons, 50 years from now, 80 years, whatever it is, when I die, don't bury me in a box. I tell my kids, cremate me like they did my mother, because I need to be free, but I don't live in, this is how the rules are. My hair is actually rebellion, to say, I don't want to be like you. I think I'm doing all right doing it my way. So
be yourself. I mean, that's a part of life that I love. And I've always been told, by my mom, like, in a sense, do what thrills you. Mm-hmm. So, like, just anything that gives you a thrill, whether if it's like reading a damn book, or you walk outside, you go for a run and you feel good. And that's the essence of life. And, I've had, like, for hairstyles, I cut my hair short. I went from hair all the way down to my waist, chopped the damn thing off, and I had, like, Sinead O'Connor hair pretty much. So people were shocked by that. They're like, are you okay? Like, are you, doing that Britney Spears 2007 thing? And I'm like, no, I just wanted to put my hair, and I wanted to try something new, So it's.
No, that's awesome. I want to go personal, because when we're talking about relationships, and I'm thinking of, like, when I do go on these trips, and a lot of times I like to travel with my family, but sometimes it's not possible, and especially with clients, and people will say things like, hey, your wife lets you go and travel like this. And I'm like, and I could only imagine you racing bikes and trying to date, or,
right.
And how do you deal with that? Because I'm sure, knuckleheads come up and say, I really like you, I really love you, but I need you to stop racing because, have you dealt with that issue?
You know what? In certain ways, yes. So I've actually held back from opportunities in my past relationships due to that reason, that I just felt bad and I didn't want to upset who I was dating before. But, like, now I'm 29 and I'm at that point where I believe in balance, and, I have my partner, and, her name's Christine, and she is great. She's an artist. So we both know what it's like to have a passion in life. So she is back there painting, and she's, doing what she loves, and she's like, you know what, you do what you love, you do what your passion tells you, speak
That's
to yourself. Awesome. And I appreciate that. And if I were to travel, like, we trust each other, and I feel like that's the biggest thing in a relationship is trust and boundaries. If you don't trust your partner, there's something in yourself you don't trust, and I feel that's a fact for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. And adults, I mean, I tell people we got to cut through the BS of what you see in the movies, because people have been people before we were born. If we looked at our grandparents and our even great grandparents, you would see things that you wouldn't necessarily say our society are acceptable, but people have to just live their life. Now, please be safe. Please don't go out there to the bar and go get COVID, bring it back to, your house. And, but in the same way, don't go out and, sleep with the whole town and bring it back, because
right.
And people know who you're dealing with. If you're dealing with, that type of person, and then tell yourself, can you live like that? Because we see politicians. I work with a little bit of everybody. So I see things and I'm like, I hope this never comes out. I'll do my best to guard, this person's secrets, but I wish they didn't have these secrets and just lived their life and were them. But again, people wouldn't vote for that type of person, right? They'd be like, oh, that guy, he's crazy at the, he goes to the special club.
Right. Wow, there's probably all doing the same thing, So it's really weird, and the double standards are just, it's wild. But like, you are the architect of your life and how you build it. You're the one that has to sleep at night at the end of the day. So if you're honest to yourself, you're going to be honest and unapologetic to other people, and that's how you gain respect, by being authentic and who you are.
My mouth is too big, so I don't get to, and the tongue don't stop. So I don't get the whole
right.
secret. I gotta, it's just, it is what it is. If you liked it, you liked it. If you didn't, it's okay.
That's a good thing. I mean, you're honest, and you know what? You're not responsible for keeping other people's secrets. So, and for me, I have a tough time keeping those in. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that was a secret. I don't know. Like, it's just, my life's too busy to keep track of that. So that's why I just bite my tongue. I try to. So
yeah, with the job, you see things and you're like, okay, but I try to also pick people that I can deal with their crazy, because maybe I can relate in some way, but sometimes you get caught up in something and like, oh, I didn't know. But let me ask you this, with the success that you've had and the success that you're going to have, what is your community give back that you are doing or that you want to do in the future?
As far as racing community?
As far as anything, it could be, you want to teach people how to race, especially, maybe young ladies who they have a thing just like you, but they don't have the money, or they haven't seen someone like you, do racing.
Oh, I would love to inspire other women, especially those that don't really know much about racing in general, just like I have back in the day. I had no idea it existed. So that's part of the reason why I've created an Instagram to begin with, is to just, tell my story and, show that ladies can do what I do. And it's not unreachable. So any girl that I meet, if I see them, if they're a backpack rider, I don't know if you heard of that term. I'm like, girl, you can get on a bike, come on. And they're like, oh, I want to, but I don't know. And there's that hesitation. And I just can tell that all you need to do is just push yourself out of that nest. You don't know what you're capable of. And, and that's all it takes, is that little encouragement, the encouragement that I've had that got me to where I am today. It really, helps. So especially when there's someone that's where you're at, like for me, like where I'm at today, it's inspiring, because I can't believe that I've ever gotten this far. So I almost inspire myself, like, wow, like I've gotten this far, but I still want more. And there's always room to learn, and every day is a learning experience. So I feel like ladies can, get together and teach each other and empower each other. And I feel like it's going to be more of a women's world in the future, hopefully.
Yeah, I definitely think that's coming.
Yes.
And there's people holding on saying, no, it could never happen, but it's coming.
Yeah, you can be hopeful.
Yeah. Outside of America, it is. Most countries have had women leaders in some form or fashion. And,
Right.
even regimes like Gaddafi, he had women, high level security women who were real, killers. You wouldn't want to just run up on them.
Right. Yes.
Is there a female bike organization? I don't mean like a club, but like in what you do, because I know women in biker clubs, regionally. But is there anything like what you do in racing for women?
So I'm glad you asked that. There's an event that I attend at Grattan Raceway, which is in Belding, Michigan, on the 5th of July, which is like the 4th of July weekend. They hold an all-ladies event called Ladies First. So there's about like maybe 30 to 35 women from all over the country that attend this event and that have that same passion and same goal, It's super exciting, because we're all there, and after the track sessions, we sit and talk about it, we encourage each other, and it's just a very inspiring time. And it usually happens on a Friday, and we hang out and party, and it's a whole weekend deal. So yeah, that's a big event that I highly recommend for any woman that's, looking to get into track racing. So
And you can ask her on her Instagram more about that. But I also want to know, is there maybe like a YouTube channel or a Facebook group that they can join to find out more information about that?
Oh, absolutely. So that event I just talked about, it's on sportbiketracktime.com. And it's a track day that you have to purchase. So you don't have to be a member. You just go on and you look it up, and they have it every year, annually. So, and they also have an Instagram, Sport Bike Track Girl, and also Sport Bike Track Time. And you could reach either or. They both are pretty much the same company, and they provide the same, system. So, but as far as racing goes, there's no other professional community that I know of. So I'm still kind of discovering that myself, but there are local groups here in Detroit area that are very inspirational, but they don't race. They get together and they have a great time. And it's just, they call it the Blueprint Allure. It's an all 80s girl group. And I've known them since I started getting into street racing. So they're really cool chicks, and they do the street races, and they're definitely not to be messed with. So they're great. And also there's the Dahlias, and they ride more so like classic cafe style bikes, and they just get together at coffee houses and run routes that go on for a couple hours, and they do charity work. So. And that's also something that's really good to get into if you're not interested in racing. So,
No,
yeah.
that is awesome. You guys have been given the game on racing, whether you are a man or a woman. You can take this and say, wow, this is how I can join this community, because that's what it sounds like. You joined a community, and then you found another community, and you just kind of build on and kind of get in where you fit in. So that's Absolutely. A beautiful thing. I don't want to give the people a game overload. So I thank you, Samantha, for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I always want to encourage other women to, do what I do. So we have each other's backs. When you join that community, it's like family. So once you're in, you're in.
You guys like, share, subscribe. You have been blessed with the game.